For many years when I went on my music tours, I had to stick to the highways because I had gigs to get to. But in recent years I've started going on what I call slow trips, where I can explore the side roads and do some walking in interesting places. It's very expensive to stay in motels, so I've made a sleeping platform to fit in the back of my little van. My most recent journey was for 6 days to a national park near the small town of Coonabarabran, New South Wales. I hope you'll enjoy my slow trip to the Warrumbungles. To cross the Blue Mountains, instead of going the usual way via Katoomba, I drove the Bells line of road and stopped in at the Blue Mountains Botanic Gardens in Mount Tomo. These cool climate gardens at 1,000 metres above sea level were opened to the public in 1987. The heritage-listed 28-hectare site is beautifully arranged and tiered. It's well worth a visit. North of Lithgow, I left the Castlereagh Highway to drive through the spectacular Wolgan Valley. Growing in profusion here, I saw wildflowers, known as Salvation Jane or Patterson's Curse. At the end of the valley, I came to Nunes, where the only building is this hotel. It's as much a museum as a hotel. Nunes was a much busier place in the early 20th century when there was a shale mining site nearby. To get to the ruins, I walked for about an hour. And I found that nature is taking over, but you can still see rows of the coke ovens used to extract oil from the shale. The work of the old brickies is impressive. This one reminds me of a hermit cell in some ancient monastic site. Jockey Hugh Bowman, the usual rider for a famous racehorse, Winx, grew up in Dunedoo, and he's well remembered here. From my base in a Coonabarabran van park, I drove 35 kilometres north for a walk around the Sandstone Caves in the Pilliga Nature Reserve. The site is not signposted from the road at the request of local Aboriginal people for whom this is a special place, but they have helped to develop the Caves Walk in cooperation with staff from the National Parks and Wildlife Service. It takes about an hour to walk round the site, slowly. Along the way you see some remarkable artworks created over millennia by wind and by water. On the 30-minute drive from Coonabarabran to the Warrumbungles, you pass a privately owned observatory, where Peter Starr, that's his real name, can offer a guided tour of the night skies. You pass Timor Rock, a site that heralds the unique volcanic landscape you are now entering. Then you see the Siding Spring Observatory. In 2016, the Warrumbungles became Australia's first dark sky park. An interesting thing to note, the National Park is located not in the Warrumbungle Shire, but in the Gilgandra Shire. Anyway, the park has a fine visitor centre where you can get information on various walks, short, medium and long, easy and hard. First, I did a couple of short walks. One was around the Warrumbungles nature track. Then a steady climb to Tara's Cave, another significant site for Aboriginal people, with views across to Warrumbungle Peaks, the Pilliga Spire and the Bread Knife, where I'll be walking tomorrow. Another great view of the peaks is from the White Gum Lookout, only 500 metres from the main road. The sign illustrates how the rocky spires and domes of the Warrumbungles are all that is left of a vast, wide volcano that was active about 14 million years ago, give or take a year or two. This was to be my major effort in the Warrumbungles, a 14-kilometre walk starting at the Pincham Car Park at 500 metres above sea level, climbing to the grand high tops at 1,000 metres above sea level, then down again. The circuit has been included in some top 10 lists for Australian walks. The warning signs are suitably graphic. But overall, the track is well made and maintained, and well signposted. As you gradually climb, you get glimpses of the peaks. In some sections where the climb is not gradual, stairs have been installed, with the occasional bench for resting. You keep on looking up. A short detour brings you to a lookout where you can see the Bread Knife, a rare feature known as a volcanic dike. It's nearly 90 metres high and as little as 4 metres wide. Another view from the same lookout. Then a final scramble up a rocky slope brings you to the top of the climb. Definitely worth a photo to remember I was here. Then the descent. Which brings you by Bluff Mountain, popular with rock climbers, I've heard. Eventually the way becomes easier, as the path follows the course of Spiry Creek, which is often dry. And at last you cross a bridge you crossed earlier, but now in the opposite direction. The circuit is complete. It's taken 5.5 hours, and it was worth every minute. Now, maybe an ice cream or a cool ginger beer from the visitors' centre. I've since learned that Warrumbungles is an Aboriginal word meaning crooked mountains.